establishing those types of guidelines and boundaries and making certain everyone is on the same page, what are various ways that you would communicate that out? Because from my awareness, everyone receives communication very differently. Some people are visual, some people read, some people are more auditory. Do you find that if you have a large group, you have to communicate it in multiple different ways?
Absolutely, yes. So if you have a website, they need to be on the website, but people don't read. Not everybody reads. You can't expect people to read things just because it's up on a website or on a flyer, right? So they have to be spoken, and they also have to be demonstrated by the leaders. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't like the word enforced so much, but they need to be empowered by the leaders. Those guidelines need to empower people to recognize those and to pay attention in gatherings when those guidelines are not being adhered to, and then have information seeking conversations. And so, in written form, and reminders as interventions, as pattern interrupts, to interrupt a pattern that's occurring. And it depends on the nature of the event, whether it's in person or online. But generally, I find sometimes you do have to have private conversations with people.
And when that happens, this is always like that conflict resolution. That's
Absolutely.
something that, even I myself, up to a certain point, I would shy away from, because confrontation, that's something that we're not really taught when we're young, right? That's
Yes.
actually your parents are the disciplinarians. There's no conflict. And in school, they're the ones who tell you what to do not create conflict. So we're never really taught conflict resolution. We're taught how to obey commands.
Right. Well, we're not taught communication, period. We're
Correct.
told to shut up and to walk in a straight line and don't touch each other. And it's very militaristic, the way that the majority of people in this country are raised. We are not taught how to live in a democracy. We are from the age of a young child. We are not given a voice. We are not taught how to negotiate to get our needs met. When Johnny hits Sally, Sally's told, to give him a hug and to make up and be nice. Well, she may not want to be nice. She may still be mad. And yet we force them to, hug and make up. So this way that we are raised does not allow us to have the permission to effectively communicate, much less know how. And so I love working with children so much. Oh, I just love it. I love it to give them permission to be mad and to say what they want to say. It's just amazing to give them permission. More amazing to teach them how to negotiate to get their needs met with adults, and to communicate with adults in a way that adults can hear them, and then to teach adults the same thing. It's really a beautiful thing. But for the rest of us that we're not taught that way,
Yes. Like, how do you undo that
well, it's
programming, right?
you have to have courage first and foremost, and you have to have such a dedication to what it is that you're doing, that you are willing to be uncomfortable, and you're willing to go in scared, and you're willing to go in and even say, like, I'm really uncomfortable right now, and it's really uncomfortable for me to bring this up. There is something that's occurred that I need to get some information about so I can help resolve it. So with you, when would be a good time? Just to lay it out there on the table sometimes is enough to help us have courage. But a heart leader of any kind doing any work in any organization has to have courage. And it's the courage to be uncomfortable and have difficult information seeking conversations. And when you go into those conflicts, understanding that it's about communication, giving permission to communicate without making anybody wrong, and to find out what's really happening here and who needs what, and what is the third alternative that perhaps we might need to find. Uh, I love Stephen Covey's book, The Third Alternative. Have you read that, Amber?
I have.
I love that. It's been such a great influence for me, and affected the way I listened differently.
Yeah. And, you know, what you say brings so much truth forward for me, which is not blaming. I'm seeking to understand, to find resolution, and to really just resolve where we are. But it takes courage to step into that first and not just let it go. And that's something you brought forward so beautifully. We've all been taught since we were young to just sweep it under the rug and let it go. And then it accumulates inside and it accumulates inside. Even in a community, right? You just don't want to create waves in the community.
That's right.
And what will other people think of me if I bring this forward? Or how will it be addressed by those who are in a hierarchical structure of the community? And so for me, part of it has been what kind of structure is created to support conflict resolution. So as you're building out and you had discussed the guidelines and the rules of engagement and all of that is in place, how do you make certain that if someone in the community does have an issue, they know they have a voice and can come forward to the leaders of the organization to express that voice and have adequate conflict resolution, whether it be in words or in email or in some fashion? How do you create that structure?
Well, that again is the leader's responsibility, and it depends on the organization. If we're talking about in-person organizations, there hopefully is more than one leader in order to keep the mission pure. That it's a group of leaders and facilitators. Because there's a difference between being a leader and being a facilitator. Many people get those things confused. And so when people can take a non-leader position and become a facilitator, then that requires you to watch, to pay attention. As you said, so much communication is not verbal. And in every community, you're going to have those people that are very verbal, and there's no hiding what they're thinking and feeling. And then there's others that are just sweet and nice or quiet, and yet they're suffering inside. And so in our in-person community, everybody that was involved on the leadership team or the community development team had a role to play. And we switched those roles up every time we met so that no one person was ever seen as the leader. And one of those roles was the person that was responsible for watching and feeling the energy of the room, of the event, and to pay attention to who was feeling uncomfortable or to feel the energy of some discordance, and to find out where that was and what was going on. And then to get a sense for, do I gently approach this now, or how do I shift this? And so so in our community, there were people who were better at that than others, but everybody got a turn at that. And so, it's about being a responsible leader and paying attention and giving people the opportunity to have that conversation that they need in a way that works for them.
I love that. Just allowing someone to be mindful and especially in an in-person, but to really focus, because sometimes people won't speak up, but they'll feel it.
That's right.
And to cue in on that and even maybe say, hey, is everything okay? Just asking that question could open them up to go, no, it's not okay.
Right. Right.
And like tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes even asking people if they're okay, they will say, "Oh yeah, everything's great," and you can see that it's not great. And you might even say something like, um, "Can I get you? Are you comfortable? Do you need a drink of water? Is there something that I can help you with?" And uh, sometimes just a gentle presence is enough as well. And but after the event, or sometimes it's right then and there, and sometimes it's after, and you make a phone call after, and you could have a more private conversation, because in a group of people there are many people who are not going to bring things up. But when you call somebody and make a personal phone call, say, "Hey, I think I might have noticed, that there was some discomfort, and I wanted to check in with you and chat with you about that." And then and there are still some people that won't even then have that conversation with you, but at least they know. And then you say, "Well, just want to let you know, if you need anything or something's not right, you can call me."
Yeah.
And just that alone, right?
But that brings up a great point too. As a leader or even a facilitator, there is only so much that you can do from one side of the communication process. If it isn't reciprocated, then there is a point at which we have to be willing to say, I've done as much as I can do from this side, and I am open, but I have to be willing to step away. And sometimes that's really not easy because we want to solve it. We want to get in there and we want to solve it. And sometimes that can create more of a disconnect and an issue than just being willing to back away and say, okay, it will solve itself.
Right? That's not respectful.
Yeah.
I think the whole point comes down to respect, whether they want to engage or they don't. Are you respecting what their needs are, and developing an understanding what their needs are in that moment? Like, you've got to take care of yourself first, as a leader, as a facilitator.